But first, my observations on the day, including as people start to put together what their financial future is going to look like, the Reserve Bank's decision yesterday to increase interest rates for the 13th time, 12 under the Albanese government, the Albo dozen. The costs are mounting up. As I said in some detail last night, but isn't it amazing how quickly the media wants to move on? If you have a $500,000 loan, you now have to find an extra $13,440 a year compared to when the rates started going up and supercharged under this government. The Albo dozen plus the one before, $750,000 loan, you need an extra $21,000 a year. This is on top of what you were already paying, while cost of living and all of the other bills are going through the roof, while you might be trying to pay off insurance on your house, which has gone up through the roof, let alone the power bills as well. And $1 million loan, which sadly is too regular for too many people who want to live in the major cities, they have to find an extra $29,000 a year to be able to stay in their home. Oh, but don't worry, the Prime Minister feels your pain. As you know, he is right at the coalface of talking all day, every day, about how his government can do something about the cost of living. Like, no doubt this came up at the White House while he was on a date night and clinking glasses of champagne. No doubt this got a mention in his pump and dump chat in China. And while this bloke is strutting on the world stage and being ever so applauded by the media, and I'll get to some of that garbage in a second, there is more data that comes out today about just the specific number of Australians who, as a result of this interest rate rise and the dozen before it, are now starting to hurt. Let's look at 3 states, the 3 most populous states in the country. First, in New South Wales. The city of Blacktown, the local government area of Blacktown, with obviously Blacktown as its heart, but many other suburbs inside it. According to analysis from Digital Financial Analytics, have a look at this. Of the 59,000 people with a mortgage in Blacktown, as a result of the Albo dozen, 51,000 of those people are now under financial stress. Financial stress means when you have to pay more than a third of all of the money that you have on trying to pay off your house. Lake Macquarie, 29,000 of the 55,000 are in mortgage stress. Fairfield, 28,000. 27,961 people who have a mortgage in Campbelltown, which is 28,180 of them. So almost everyone with a mortgage in Campbelltown is hurting right now. In the Hills Shire, 25,000 people are under mortgage stress. In Canterbury, it's 20,000. Camden, 20,000. Liverpool, 19 of the 22,000. Wollongong, 19 of the 30,000 people with a loan. Or Cessnock, 17,000 of the 23,000. Or may I put that into some language that the Prime Minister, political apparatchiks and the people who talk about politics for a living may understand. Chifley, Greenway, McMahon, Lake Macquarie, Hunter, Fowler, Fairfield, McMahon, Campbelltown, Macarthur, Hills Shire and Borkham Hills. They are all federal seats in the Australian Parliament. If you think that the people who almost all of the people in those areas like Blacktown and that local government area or Campbelltown are going to keep voting for Labor, well, you've got another thing coming. In Victoria, the #1 location of mortgage stress right now is Casey, the local government area there. In federal electorate terms, that's Casey or Bruce. Then places like Hume, Indi, Whittlesea, McEwen, Wyndham, Layla, Carnley and Fraser. Have a look at these numbers. In Casey, 44,000 of the 71,000 people with a mortgage are in trouble. In Hume, it's 30,000, 27 of 36,000 people in Whittlesea, half of the people in Wyndham, 25,000 of the 41,000 in Brimbank, 24 of 28,000 in that local government area beneath it. I won't mispronounce it, I apologise. And it goes on and on and on. In Queensland, Brisbane, which of course is one of the biggest local government areas in the country, it covers all of essentially the capital city that is Brisbane. More than half of everyone with a mortgage in Brisbane is now in financial stress after an Albo dozen of interest rate rises. 114,000 of 204,000 people. Again, you can see Logan, Moreton Bay, the Gold Coast, the Sunshine Coast, Toowoomba, Ipswich, Redland, Cairns and Townsville. What about in Ipswich? 20,000 of the 29,000 people with a mortgage are now in financial trouble. May I spell that out for the political people? The city, or I should say rather, the electorates of Brisbane, Longman, Moncrieff, Wide Bay and Groom. All of them are hurting right now. Those are the people who, when they hear about cost of living on this show every night, when they see the inflation figures every month, when they see the government doing 4/5 of bugger all about it, they are frightened because there is no extra money. They're not getting pay rises, and that's not because their bosses are evil, but pay rises can't produce a random up to $30,000 on top of what you already had this time last year. The economy just doesn't work like that. The only people who assume it works like that are public servants who are guaranteed to always get a pay rise, or politicians who never forget, while you've had an Albo dozen of interest rate rises, they have got their highest pay rise in 10 years. And as for the great passenger that is the Treasurer of Australia, Grim Jim Chalmers, there he was yesterday, out and about, saying, I feel your pain, I understand, turning up for the softest of soft home ground interviews on the ABC last night. Well, with that many people in that much stress, you'd think he might back up again today. But guess what? Nothing. Tumbleweeds. Nowhere. No sign of this bloke today. No follow-up, and no one in the political media saying, where is the Treasurer? How many areas have I just told you where almost everyone with a mortgage is in trouble, or well and truly more than half of all of the people in those areas are in mortgage trouble right now as a result of inflation that is out of control because this government makes it worse. They continue the immigration policy, which is good for the federal budget but bad for the people. They're going to turn around and cut infrastructure spending but still add more people. And yes, they are refusing to cut petrol. It's more than $2 virtually everywhere in the country. 25 cents could be cut tomorrow. It costs $3 billion. They've got a $20 billion surplus. And what was it that Jim Chalmers said when he was thundering when it was just one interest rate rise, but he wasn't the bloke in charge?
When things are going well in the economy, he takes all of the credit. And when times are tough in the economy, he takes none of the responsibility.
Well, since that comment, under his leadership, under his control, Australian households have put up with a dozen further interest rate rises. Yet he has the arrogance to disappear the day after people are starting to soak up the information. And sadly, it looks like the interest rate rises are not over. The Reserve Bank and one of its former board members spoke today to the Australian Financial Review and says that rates need to go up 3 more times. This person believes that there has to be a 5% cash rate, higher obviously when it comes to what you have to pay when you're dealing with a bank or a mortgage broker. But currently rates are at 4.35%. If we have to get to 5% and they do it 0.25, and then what's left over, that's 3 more interest rate rises. How are you feeling under Albonomics? With the Prime Minister swans around for free, his mates on the backbench get the biggest pay rise they've got in 10 years. Everyone connected to the union movement is loving what they're doing to the Australian economy. The Australian dollar is down by more than 10 cents, which means everything we import to the country costs more, and he won't spend a cent to do anything about your petrol. But they're trying to spin that they've got $26 billion worth of cost of living relief, and this has resulted in 0.5% of inflation being reduced. Well, fantastic, pal. We're at the best part of 5.5%. The Reserve Bank needs to bash it down to between 2 and 3%. So you can find another $3 billion, reduce petrol which is one of the things that they calculate inflation on, because inflation on petrol is up 20% in the past month, 15% the month before that. Honestly, this bloke. But of course, no questions today for the Prime Minister because he's overseas. Oh, he made a passing comment and then bolted in China, but now he's at the Pacific Islands Forum. Another opportunity to hand out taxpayer cash to make sure that China doesn't take over these places, but I'll tell you some detail in a second about how China's already doing it. He's been the little boy in terms of the relationship with the United States, the fawning little boy in terms of the relationship with China. Well, now he gets to be the big man with the Pacific Islands Forum. Did he say anything today about interest rates and mortgage stress where places like Campbelltown, where almost everyone with a mortgage is now in financial trouble? No, nothing, zero, zip. Media, fine by us. Extraordinary. Can we play that grab of Chalmers again? What did he have to say when they were in full force attack against the former Prime Minister, against the evil Liberal government that you had to get rid of, when petrol was lower, when interest rates were lower and mortgage stress virtually didn't exist in Australia? What was it that Chalmers said? Because now it applies a dozen times over to him and Albo.
When things are going well in the economy, he takes all of the credit. And when times are tough in the economy, he takes none of the responsibility.
These people, seriously.